These are the secret tactics that nobody talks about when it comes to getting rent-to-rent deals from landlords. And in a lot of cases, you'll need to pay for this information that I'm going to be sharing with you right now. Specifically, I'm going to cover 5 key tactics that you can start implementing today to use on landlords to allow you to get rent-to-rent deals. And trust me, if you're using these tactics effectively, you will be able to get rent-to-rent deals so much easier. By the way, if you're new to the channel, my name is Yusuf Sheikh. On this channel right here, I give you all the strategies and tactics needed to start and grow a profitable rent-to-rent service accommodation business. But without further ado, let's get started with it. We're going to start off with the first tactic. Now, typically, when a lot of people think about doing rent-to-rent service accommodation, they think about Airbnb. And this is a misconception that a lot of people have. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it can be true to where your main focus is Airbnb, but if you're able to approach landlords and flip it in a different way, this could benefit you massively. Now, what me and my students do before approaching landlords and pitching them the idea of a rent-to-rent, we would first be doing research on the area itself to see what's taking place in that area and what actually brings people to the area. So this is us analyzing the demand in an area, and there's so many different reasons for this. Whether it's tourists visiting attractions, landmarks, you may have certain companies that have their HQs or headquarters in that specific area, or you may have certain things that bring people to the area. For example, theme parks, arenas, stadiums, airports, universities, of course, hospitals, and so many different things. On top of that as well, if there is construction taking place in a certain area, this could be a very good sign that there is high demand for contractors that are working on those building sites. So me and my students make sure we do heavy research in the area. We make sure we find out what businesses and corporations are based in that area, what works they do. If there's any construction work taking place, we're going to do heavy research into that. And then based off our research, once we establish that there is good enough demand to target specific individuals that work in certain sectors, this is when we'd approach the landlord and pitch them the idea. But when we're pitching them, we're going to pitch them in a way in which we let them know, hey, these are the individuals we're looking to target, whether that be contractors or construction workers, whether that be business travelers, or whether that be even people working in the local hospitals or even in the nearby universities. This is how we're going to pitch them. Now look, don't get me wrong, we also let them know that, hey, we're also going to be looking to accommodate people that are tourists, that are coming to the area for leisure purposes for a short period. Yeah, 100%. But we're also going to let them know that our main focus is going to be to try and target business travelers or whatever type of companies, people there are in the area that are doing certain works. Those are going to be the individuals that we are looking to target based on the research that we carried out. Now, obviously, if you're doing research in an area and that demand isn't there, there's no, construction work, there's no corporate companies, there's no, hospitals. I mean, I don't know any areas that don't have any hospitals, or, there's no unis, for example, then obviously you don't want to lie. If you got a place in, let's say, for example, Brighton, which is a seaside town, and the main focus in that area is just holiday lets and people coming to the area for tourism and weekend getaways, then yes, you want to be honest about that. But in most towns, in most cities in the UK and in England, you will have a certain element of demand from business travelers and potentially even construction workers if there's construction work taking place in that area. And by you doing this, by you positioning yourself in this way and pitching the landlords in the way that I'm telling you to do, you'll be giving yourself a massive edge. Because guess what? Most people that try and do this, that try and contact landlords to take on rent-to-rent deals, especially for service accommodation, they don't pitch this way. This is how the professionals pitch. This is how people that have over 30, 40, 50, even 100 plus units, this is how they pitch. So by you doing it in this way, you'll be separating yourself and differentiating yourself from the amateurs that are calling these landlords, trying to pitch them in a very amateur way. So that's the first tactic covered right there. Now let's move on to the second tactic that you can use to allow you to get rent-to-rent deals from landlords a whole lot easier. Now I want you to think about this for a second. When somebody starts doing rent-to-rent, sets up a business and tries to contact landlords and estate agents, what is the biggest obstacle that they face? Well, I'll tell you this right now. The biggest obstacle that they usually face is that their company is new. And of course, when landlords find out about this, it can make them feel a little wary. So the question is now, how can we make sure that we're making them feel more easy and more comfortable to go ahead with us, even if we do have a new company? In fact, there's a little hack that you can use to where I haven't heard anyone talk about this. But if you do it correctly, it can work so well. So of of course, one of the concerns that the landlord's gonna have is that, okay, this person doesn't have any properties, I'm gonna be his first property. So for them, they may see that as a higher risk on their part, but there's something you can definitely do to put them at ease and make them a little bit more comfortable. Now, of course, in most cases, if you're gonna be taking on a serviced accommodation in a certain area, there's gonna be other people in the local area doing the exact same thing as you're doing. Now, what you could do, you could connect with these people, connect with them, build a relationship with them, and potentially you could let them know that, hey, look, I can actually help you get more bookings. If I help you get more bookings, would it be okay if I receive the commission? And of course, 100% they're gonna agree to that because, you know, if they're listing their properties on Airbnb and Booking.com, they're already being charged a commission. So if you're coming to them, but you're charging them less of a commission, they're 100% gonna go ahead with it. And when it comes to finding people that are looking to book properties, book Airbnb service accommodations in certain areas, there's multiple different ways that you can go about finding this out. There's actually certain Facebook groups that you can join where people in the group are advertising the people that they have that are looking to book in certain areas. So you have someone, for example, that says, hey, I've got this person here, they want to book for 2 weeks in the Stratford area in East London. Does anyone have any properties in that area? So you can easily go about joining those groups to potentially come across those bookings. And you can potentially also list websites on other platforms to attract those bookings and then pass them on to the other operators for a commission, of course. Now, by you doing this, obviously you're helping them out, you're assisting them, but at the same time, you're going to be able to build a good relationship with these people as well. And of course, when you build a good relationship with these people and you become good friends with them, this is when they're going to want to help you out as well. And think about it, because you're helping them out with their properties, you're actually providing them a service. Essentially, you have almost a partnership with them to help them and assist them with their properties. So let's say you're doing this with a few people. Now, let's say you're doing this with 3, maybe 4 people in a certain area. So when it comes to approaching landlords and pitching them this idea, yes, even though your company is new, you can let them know that, hey, look, I'm actually assisting other operators with managing their properties in this area as well. And if they want to, you can even take them over there for a quick tour. Of course, if you've got a good enough relationship with the operator, they shouldn't have a problem with that. So this could be a very, very good way for you to build credibility from early on when you're approaching these landlords, and to be fair, also estate agents as well. And the reason for this is very simple. In the landlord's mind, if you're telling them this, they're going to be thinking, okay, if this person has a partnership with all these different people to help them with managing their properties by providing them bookings and doing all these different things, then of course they've got experience and they probably have the knowledge as well. So that's the second secret tactic right there that you can use to allow yourself to get rent-to-rent deals easily from landlords. And by the way, if you are someone that feels like you need more help and support with kickstarting this business and securing deals for yourself, I've left the link in the description below to allow you to schedule a call with us to see how we can best assist. But now let's move on to the third secret tactic. Now, what you have to understand in a lot of cases when you're approaching landlords and trying to take on their properties as a rent-to-rent, in most cases, you're not going to be the only one that's trying to take on that property. You're going to be competing with other tenants, for example, that want to live in that property. But not only that as well, in some cases, you could also be competing with other people that are looking to do the same thing as you. And this is especially true if you're trying to take on deals in locations that are very, very popular, specifically in town centers and also city centers as well. So you have to ask yourself now, if the landlord has so many different options from different people to choose from, how can we make sure that we're incentivizing them to choose us out of all of the other people that are interested? Well, the answer to this is actually very simple and so effective, and it surprises me that a lot of people don't use this. And the answer to this is just offer them more rent. For example, if you're going for a 2-bedroom flat that costs £1,500 per month, well, what you could do, you could outbid the competition. Instead of you offering to pay £1,500 per month, you could potentially offer to pay £1,700 per month. That's a £200 per month increase for the landlord and a £2,500 increase per year for the landlord as well. So obviously, if the landlord isn't taking you seriously, or you feel like you're competing with too many people, this is a very good ace that you can pull out of your sleeve to use to really get the landlord to seriously consider going ahead with you rather than the other people. And this right here has worked very, very well, not just for myself, but also for many of my students that have implemented the same thing and were able to secure rent-to-rent deals for themselves. Now, of course, if you're going to do this, you obviously want to make sure that the numbers make sense to allow you to do this. For example, if you're looking at a deal and the average profits that you can make is, let's say, for example, £600 per month. Me personally, I don't think that's the best deal, but some people wouldn't mind taking on that deal, especially if this is their first. But if you calculate that's the average profit you can make, £600, but now you try offer a £200 rent increase, per month, that means that £600 comes down to £400 per month. So you definitely need to make sure that the numbers make sense. If, for example, the deal's making you £1,000 per month, that's a little bit different. Minus £200, that still leaves you with £800 per month in profit, which is still not bad, to be fair. So make sure you have an idea of what the numbers are before offering the rent increase to the landlord, because look, it's got to be worthwhile for yourself at the end of the day too, because you are running the business. And also, if you're going to use this tactic right here, I personally wouldn't use it straight away. So what that means is I wouldn't contact the landlord and pitch them rent to rent and then say, oh, by the way, we can also offer you a rent increase as well. What I would do instead, I would contact the landlord, I would pitch them the idea, I would have a good conversation with them, I would see where their head is at with it. If they're open to the idea, great, no problem. I don't need to offer them a rent increase. But if they're showing some resistance and they're hesitating a little bit, then that's something that I can put forward to them later on to, get them more incentivized and to get them over a line to agree with the deal. So that's what I would personally do. Make sure you're being very selective of when to use and implement this tactic right here. But it can work very, very well. So now let's move on to the fourth secret tactic. Now, what so many people get wrong when they're pitching landlords rent to rent is that even when the landlord doesn't agree to it, they just leave them alone. They just stop trying with them. They don't actually follow up with them later on to see where their head's at with this thing. And that is a massive, massive mistake, because believe it or not, people can actually change their minds. I've seen this so many times, even with a lot of my students. They would contact the landlord would say no to them, and then my students will obviously just leave them. And then a week, maybe 2 weeks later, they will still see the property on the market. And then now my students will contact the landlord and say, hey, look, what's going on? Your property's still on the market. And then guess what? It's possible that the landlord could be willing to have a conversation with you. I'm telling you, following up with landlords is crucial. It's so, so important. And by you not doing this, you're missing out on so many opportunities, and there's going to be so many lost deals that you could have taken on, but you didn't because you failed to follow up with these landlords. So make sure that even when landlords say no to you, or they say, hey, look, I'm not interested, that's fine, not a problem whatsoever. But then just keep in touch with them. Check out their property a week later. See if it's on the market. If it's still on the market still, just touch base with them. Say, hey, look, John, I see your property still on the market. I just wanted to check in to see, if this was something you were still open to. Even then, if he says no, that's not a problem. That's not to say that you should stop following up with them. You could follow up with them maybe a couple of weeks later. The only time you should stop following up with them is if they specifically tell you, hey, stop contacting me. I don't want you to contact me anymore. This is the only time. But if they don't say this, then you can follow up with them. But obviously, don't be obnoxious with it. Don't follow up with them like every day or every couple of days or so. Of course, give some gap in between. And to be fair, even in the scenario where, let's say, for example, the landlord has let out the property to someone else. Okay, cool, no problem. Well, guess what? That person isn't going to stay in that property forever. Normal tenancies last anywhere between 6 to 12 months. So is it a possibility that 6 months down the line that the landlord could maybe have a change of heart about this? Possibly, potentially. So we can definitely follow up with them later on down the line, let's say 6 months down the line, to see if they could be open to this sort of thing. And to be fair, if you're following up with these people consistently, they will actually respect you. They will have a lot of respect for you because most people don't do that, and they can see that you're someone that has very high work ethics. And of course, people do respect that. And to be fair, even off the back of that, they may even consider wanting to work with you. Trust me, I've got many students that have done exactly what I'm telling you right now, and they've secured deals from landlords that said no to them, and then 6 months later, when the property comes on the market again, or just before the property comes on the market, because they were so consistent, the landlords just ended up wanting to work with them and give them their properties. And then even after that, the landlords saw that they did a good job, and then they ended up giving them more and more properties. And all because they kept following up. If they didn't follow up, they would have lost that opportunity and they wouldn't have taken on all of those properties. So this is so, so important. I cannot emphasize this enough. The deal isn't a follow-up. Remember that. And also, one more thing about this as well. Let's say, for example, the landlord has let out the property, but then you contact them 6 months later, just before they put the property back on the market again. Well, guess what? You're going to be the first person that they speak to. Nobody else is reaching out to them. Nobody else has contacted them because they haven't advertised the property. So you automatically have the edge right then and there because you're the only person and the first person that they're speaking to about this. And that's an off-market deal right there. And trust me, those are the best deals to take on because you're not competing with no one else. It's just you. It's just the landlord. He didn't just speak to you there and then. He's spoken to you a little while ago, so he's familiar with you, and it makes it a whole lot easier. Trust me. Now, let's move on on to the fifth and final secret tactic of securing rent-to-rent deals from landlords with ease. Now, a mistake that most people make, especially beginners, when they have an opportunity presented to themselves, let's say for example, they contacted the landlord, they pitched them the idea of a rent-to-rent, the landlord is open to it, and they get to discussing the terms, and then it's time for them to move ahead and close that deal. What most beginners do at this stage is they freeze. They start getting scared, they start getting nervous and anxious, and because of that, they're not able to make a decision very quickly. They take a long time to make a decision to move ahead on that deal because they're thinking to themselves, oh, what if I take on this deal and it doesn't work? They don't feel 100% about it because they've never done it before. This is their first time. But the reason why this is so bad is that speed is everything in this game. Think about it. The landlords or even estate agents, they're not gonna wait around for you forever for you to be comfortable enough to make up your mind to close the deal. If you take too long, they're just gonna go ahead with someone else. They're not gonna wait for you. And to be fair, on top of that as well, you look like someone that's not serious and you look like someone that doesn't know what they're doing because you're having to take such a long time to make up your mind. So you look like an amateur, and trust me, I even made this mistake. I made this mistake very early on in my journey because I remember there was an estate agent that I connected with. He was a very good guy. We hit off, we built a very, very good relationship, and I had the potential to take on so many deals from this guy. At that time, I didn't have any deals. Now, he actually bought me one deal, and it was actually a good deal, but because that was my first deal, I hesitated, I got nervous, and I didn't make up my mind straight away, and I took a bit long to get back to him. And based off that, he thought, nah, this guy isn't serious. And guess what? He stopped speaking to me because he thought I wasn't serious. And I don't blame him. And I lost a big opportunity there because had I taken on that deal, had I pushed past my fears, I could have had so many other deals that this estate agent would have passed ahead to me. But because I let my fear get the best of me, I didn't move ahead. Remember this, you're never gonna feel 100% about moving ahead on a deal, especially if this is your first deal. There's always gonna be thoughts, doubts, hesitations in your mind. Oh, what if it goes bad? What if it goes wrong? What if I don't get any bookings? Remember this, as long as you've done thorough research, as long as you've crunched the numbers correctly and you've identified that that area you're taking on that property in is a very good area and you can make good money from it based on the number crunching that you've done, that's all there is to it. You just have to push past your fears and take that leap of faith, because this is what business is. Business is all about taking risks. If you're not willing to take a risk, then you will not prevail, you will not progress in business. But of course, we're talking about calculated risk right now. We're not talking about reckless risk, of course. So if you are presented with an opportunity, you want to make sure that you are moving ahead with it ASAP, because by you doing this, first of all, the other person, the landlord, is going to think, okay, this person's serious, this person's playing no games. Like, I'm talking for us, we would want to secure the deals the same day. If we go and view the property, we like it, we've done our number crunching, we want to pay the deposit right then and there, we want to sign the contract, we want to collect the keys. That shows the landlord that these lot are about their business. They're not trying to play no games. We're serious, and we're trying to make the landlord see that. And if the landlord sees that, they see how serious we are, guess what? They're going to be more at ease. They're going to be a bit more comfortable because, that just shows them that, okay, these guys know what they're doing, and they're actually, about it. Also, if you want to learn what to say to landlords and the exact script to use when pitching them rent-to-rent service accommodation, check out this video right here. It's going to walk you through the exact script that me and my clients have used to literally secure hundreds and hundreds of rent-to-rent deals from landlords. Make sure you're checking out this video right here.